Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Margraves of Valeria from designer Isaias Vallejo and publisher Daily Magic Games. This is sort of a multi-use card-driven, card drafting, deck building, point-to-point movement, action selection, resource management kind of kitchen sink kind of game in which you find yourself as a Margrave in the kingdom of Valeria, fighting off monsters, building magical ward towers, and ultimately trying to gain influence in a variety of different guilds to prove yourself in the realm in order to become the next Duke or Duchess of the kingdom. With that said, I should mention first that I was given a review copy of this game for this video, but as always, I will do my best to let you know exactly how I feel about the game and give you my own honest opinions as much as possible. Let's head down to the table to see how the solo mode in this game works, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a solo game of Margraves of Valeria, begin by placing out the game board, and then place out the track board next to the game board. We'll then continue setting up the track board. For the solo mode of the game, we will only be using the citizens cards that are marked with this 2-player marker right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take those citizens cards. There are 24 of them in total. We'll take those cards, give them a good shuffle, placing the deck up here in the top right corner, and then I'm going to turn over one card for each of these slots right here. We'll then take 15 of the Knight Meeples, placing them down here in the barracks, and then take these privilege tokens, separating them into 1s and 2s. For the solo mode, we will be using all of these tokens regardless of the player count shown in the bottom left corner. However, in the solo game, we will not be using any of the tokens that have these banners on them or the symbols on them like this. So all of the tiles with these 2 types of symbols printed on them should be removed from the game. So once those 2 types of tiles have been removed from the game and they've been separated into 1s and 2s, they will be shuffled and placed out next to the board. And then from those stacks, these 3 slots should be filled with face-up level 1 tiles, and these 3 slots should be filled with face-up level 2 tiles like this. And with that, the track board is finished being set up, and we'll transition back to the main game board. The first thing we're going to do to the main game board is place out the 4 different layer cards on the matching space on the board. And then we're going to seed each of those layers with monster cards. Now in the solo mode, this works a little bit differently than it does in the main game. For each of the 4 layers, we're going to take the 4 normal monsters as well as the boss monster and simply shuffle all of these cards together. And then we'll just take 2 of those cards and place them in that layer. And then once those 2 cards have been randomly selected, they will be ordered such that these values of attack will be increasing moving down. So the top card should have a smaller number than the bottom card, and then they will both be placed faced up in the appropriate layer. And we'll continue doing the same for the other 3 layers, like this. Next, we need to seed the board with the available resources for the game. And in the solo mode, we're going to be using 2 gems, which are placed up here in the top right corner, 3 wood, which are placed down here in the bottom left corner, 3 stone, which are placed up here in the top left corner, and then finally 3 magic down here in the bottom right corner. In addition to the basic resources, we also need to set out this sort of stock of money or gold for the game. And the money that comes with the game are these cardboard tokens like this, but for this playthrough I will actually be making use of the gold coins or the actual metal coins that I do have available to me. So for the solo mode, we are going to be placing out 2 5 gold tokens and 10 1 gold token. And that gold will be placed in the center of the board, and that gold will be the only gold that is available throughout the gameplay. The last thing that does need to be seeded onto the main game board are the knights. And we're going to be placing 1 knight in each of the different cities on the board. And then the final addition to the main game board is the other thing that's particularly unique to the solo game, and that is these solo event cards here are going to be placed in the center of the board. And just before we begin play, I will be flipping over the top card of that deck, but let's continue setup of our player area. So to set up our player area, we need to begin by placing out our player board, and then the remainder of our player pieces. So we're going to be placing out this keep. This keep doesn't really have any mechanical function aside from holding our gold, but we'll set that over here to the side. We will set our strength with this strength token to level 0 to begin. Our 4 ward towers get placed in these 4 slots of our storage. Our ship token here is a little bit small, might be hard to see. The ship token gets placed here in the shipping area, down here to start at the bottom. Our Margrave meeple gets placed up here in Shalina. And then our 4 influence trackers will get placed in the 4 different guild tracks here, starting in this initial location like this. And then finally, we also get this player aid that will tell us all of the different steps of a turn and also show us the sort of meaning of all the iconography in the game. So I'll set this down here. And then we start with our initial hand of 4 cards, which I will just lay out here. In this game, there is no deck. We do have access to all of our cards at all times. However, when we do end up using them, and you'll see that in gameplay later, they will get placed over here in a sort of discard pile. But I'll explain that more as we get into gameplay. And then finally, before we get into gameplay, as a sort of final step to sort of give us some starting variability to the game, we're going to take these wealth tiles, give these a shuffle, and we're going to draw 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oops. Also, one more thing I did forget. In addition to our 4 ward towers, we also start with 1 gem in our stores. And now finally, from these 4 wealth tiles that I drew randomly, I'm going to select 3 of them to use for this game. And they're basically going to dictate what I start the game with. So looking at what we've got here, let me show you these 4 tiles. This tile here will allow me to take 8 coins. This tile here will allow me to increase my strength 2 and start with 2 knights in my stores. This one will give me 1 free influence in the soldier guild, and also give me 1 strength and 2 coins. And then finally, this one will give me 1 level 1 privilege tile from the top of a stack and start me with 1 knight. Now, looking at these 4 tiles and looking at this, I haven't explained how the game works yet, but basically the scoring in this game is going to be based on collecting these guild symbols. And looking at the cards that are available to me right now, there are no soldier guild symbols. So it might be that I focus on things other than soldiers in this gameplay. So I think that's the tile that I'm not going to use for this game, which means I will then be taking these 3 tiles. So I'm going to start with 2 strength, 3 soldiers, 1 privilege tile, and 8 coins. And with that, we are all ready to play a game of Margraves of Valeria in the solo mode. But again, before we start, I should turn over the top event card here. So Margraves of Valeria with the solo mode is going to play out over a series of turns, continuing play until all of the citizen cards have been removed from the game, either added to my collection of cards or discarded from the game. And when the last card has been removed, the game will end. Now, the way that this game is going to work as far as scoring is concerned, I should mention up front because that's going to drive everything that we're doing in the game. But basically throughout gameplay as we're playing, we're going to be driving these tracks, moving our influence marker up the track. And these influence markers are going to determine the scoring for each of the different guild symbols. So if my initiative token is in this first area, each symbol for that symbol will be worth 1 point. In this area, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, 5 points. And if I can get all the way to the end of the track, 6 points for that specific guild icon. And what that means is at the end of the game, for every one of those guild icons that I have on a card that's in my hand or in my collection of cards, and every guild icon I have on a location where I've placed one of my ward towers, each of those symbols will be worth a number of points equal to where that token has finished on that specific track. In addition, through gameplay, we will be fighting these monsters, and should we ever kill both monsters in a certain lair, we will then take that lair card, and at the end of the game, each lair card that we've managed to take into our collection will also be worth 2 points. And then finally, for every 1 gem we have left in our stores, we'll take 2 points. For every 3 resources of any kind, meaning wood, stone, and or magic, we will get 1 point. And for every 5 coins or 5 gold remaining at the end, we will score 1 point. So that is sort of the goal of the game. So let's talk about what is going to be happening on each of these turns. On my turn, I'm basically going to choose one of the cards from my hand to play. And I can do that for one of 4 different things. So if we look at each card, the cards themselves have 2 pieces of information that we should be looking at. Up here in the top left corner are sort of abilities that that card can be played to do. And then down here is a unique power or ability that's for that specific card. So when we play a card, we can choose to play these actions in the pennant up here in the top left corner, or the unique ability for that card. And so if we look at this card specifically, if I played for the pennant, I would get 1 strength, I would move my Margrave once, and I would move a soldier once. If I played for the bottom action, I would do exactly what it says. So here it says gain 1 strength and 1 soldier, and then all players can spend 1 coin, in this case just me, to get 1 more knight, and then I can slay a monster. It's worth showing here that I can only ever slay a monster if I play a card that says I can. There's no ability for me to slay a monster based on a pennant action. They only come from specific cards that are allowed to then slay monsters. So while we're talking about these different abilities, let me show you the rest of the 3 cards we start with. This card here would give me 1 of any resource of my choice, moving a Margrave, moving a soldier, or a knight. And then the ability for this card is that I can gain 1 resource and 4 gold, and then all players can spend 1 gold to get 1 more wild resource. The Alchemist would give me 2 gold, move a Margrave, move a knight. Or should I trigger the ability, 5 gold, I can spend a gold to get a resource, and then I gain 1 gold for every ward tower that I've already built. And then finally, the Paladin would let me move a Margrave and move a knight twice. I would gain a magic and a strength, and then I would gain more strength, 1 per ward tower that's built, and I could slay a monster. So when we activate the pennant action in the top left corner of our card, generally that's going to include some kind of movement of Margrave and some kind of movement of knights. And both of those actions are basically going to function in the same way. Anytime I move my figure to a location or move a knight to a location, I'm going to trigger the sort of action of that location. Now I can move my Margrave along these white roads from city to city, and I can also send knights across those roads in the same way. But a knight can only ever move from a city that I'm in to an adjacent city. In addition, for a knight action, instead of moving a knight from my city to another city, we can instead deploy a knight from our player board into the location where we are, triggering the location ability that we placed that knight into. So let me go quickly over what the different location abilities are. Up here, down in this bottom corner, and down in this bottom corner, we're simply going to gain the resource of that location. So up here we would get 1 stone, down here we would get 1 wood, and over here we'll take 1 magic. The top right corner is similar, except we need to spend 3 of any resource to get 1 gem. And this top center location is going to be basically how we're recruiting the citizens into our hand. And to do that, we're basically just going to be spending the amount of gold printed below the card that we'd like to take. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 gold. And when we recruit one of those citizens, they will immediately be added into our hand to be used on a next turn or in any future turn. And it's worth mentioning here that something that's unique with the solo mode is, at the end of every turn, when we do some cleanup, if there is still a card left in this 2 gold slot, it will be removed from the game. It's discarded and we cannot then buy it or recruit it later on in the game. If we ourselves take that one, nothing else will be removed from the game, but if that one is still left there, that card will be removed and then everything slides to the left and refreshes, which means if there's something up here that I'm interested in and I don't need it right away, it's better to wait until later because those cards will become cheaper and there's no danger of them getting removed from the game except from this number 2 slot. And remember that this is sort of the timer of the game because when all of these cards are gone, the game will be triggered, or the game end will be triggered, which means if I'm not getting this card and I'm buying lots of cards up here, the game will be accelerated because this card will be removed every time, regardless of whether or not I recruit something. So then coming back to the board, the other 3 spots, this one down here at the bottom simply gives you 1 strength. This one over here allows me to pay 1 gold for any one resource. And any one resource, again, I should keep repeating this, means stone, wood, or magic. Gems don't count as a resource because they will cost something to get them. And then finally, the last location is this shipping location. When I take the shipping action, I am going to spend however many resources I would like to spend from my personal supply to move this ship around this track. And for every 1 resource that I spend, I'm going to move forward 1 space on this track, doing whatever it shows on that space. So these 4 spaces will simply get me 3 gold. These 2 spaces will allow me to move any of my 4 influence trackers up 1 space. And these 2 here will take me 1 privilege, or level 1 privilege tile and 1 level 2 privilege tile from the available tiles. And when I say available tiles, I mean these 3 level 1 or these 3 level 2 tiles. The other action that we can take that I haven't shown here yet, as part of the power abilities at the bottom of the card, is that Slay a Monster action. And the way that that works is, from every city on the board, you see these brown roads rather than the white roads. These brown roads all lead to a monster. And we can attack any monster that is attached to the city we are in by one of these brown roads. So from this Shilina city at the top here, I can attack these 2 monsters right here. And in order to do that, I need to spend an amount of strength equal to the strength shown on the card. And I may also need to spend some amount of magic for specific monsters as well. Now, in addition to spending our own strength, we can also send knights into battle for us. And for every knight that we send into battle, that will increase our strength by 1. And the knights that we can send into battle will come either from our player board or from the city that we are in at that time. And every knight that we send into battle will basically die a heroic death and will be placed into a hero's tomb over here on the tracker board. And again, for every knight that we do that, we will get 1 additional strength for that combat. And when we place them into these hero tombs, if we ever complete a row or a column in those tombs, we will then trigger whatever reward we see printed on that row and or column. But you'll see how that works more as we get into gameplay. Now I mentioned we can use our cards from our hand to do 4 different things, and I've only explained 2, being the pennant action at the top left corner or the power ability at the bottom of the card. The next thing we can do is build. And to build, we're going to need to spend 1 of each resource, as shown here on our player board. 1 stone, 1 wood, 1 magic, and 1 gem. And then we're going to be able to build in any of the locations where we are currently at. And of course, that'll only be 1 at any given time. But for example, right now, if I was in Shilina and I had a magic, a stone, a wood, and a gem, I could spend all 4 of those, discarding a card, in order to place 1 of my ward towers in 1 of the 3 available slots at that location. And we can only ever build 1 ward tower at any one location. But the reason that there are 3 slots, well, of course, aside from the multiplayer game, is that I can choose sort of what reward I want for placing that building out, and whichever slot I cover, I will get the reward. So here, for example, you see 3 of any resource, 1 influence, track, adjustment, or 6 gold. In addition to whatever is printed on the board where we place the ward tower, we will always also score 3 influence in any guild at that time as well. Now, looking back at these influence tracks, you'll see that there's rivers running through in certain locations, And each of those rivers has a gold cost printed on it. In order for us to move our influence tracker across one of those bridges, means crossing the river, we have to be able to pay the amount of gold shown there, or we can't move the tracker. And every time we cross one of these rivers, we will take one of the privilege tiles matching whatever it shows below that river. So for these first two rivers, we would take one of these 3 level 1 tiles. For these last 2 rivers, we would take one of these 3 level 2 tiles. And for this center river right here, we would be taking either a level 1 or a level 2 tile. And again, in order to cross that river, we will have had to have paid that amount in gold. Finally, the last action that we can take on our turn by discarding a card is what's called the recall action. And when we take a recall action, first we're going to choose one of the cards up here to discard and remove from the game. And then we will take all of our personal discard back into our hand, refreshing our sort of available cards to us. And then finally we have the option to buy one of the citizen cards that are still available in the offer after we have discarded that single card. After we've taken our turn, at the end of every turn, first, as I said before, we will check to see if there's a card in this first slot of the citizens card market, remove that from the game, sliding all of the other cards down one and replacing or refilling that empty slot at the end. If I did also buy one, we'll refill that second empty slot as well. Then at the end of the turn, this is when we will check to see columns and rows of the heroes' tombs to trigger those rewards if necessary. We'll refill any of these privileged tile slots that we've used. And then we will check to see if the game has ended. And again, that's happening if there are no cards left here. Otherwise, we continue on in the same way, taking our next turn. All right, so let's go ahead and get into gameplay. Looking at the citizen the citizen cards that are available to me right now, I see 2 of these holy cards, 2 of these shadow cards, and 1 worker card. And Shelina, as a starting city, has holy and shadow. So I see 2 holy, 2 shadow, and I see holy and shadow in my starting city. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on trying to collect holy and shadow as my sort of 2 main guilds for scoring. Sorry though, before we continue the play, I do have to mention these solo event cards. Whatever card is face up at the top of this deck during gameplay is something that's going to be sort of an active event. And it's always going to give us sort of something that makes one of our actions a little bit more powerful, but also something that sort of impedes us in some way. So if we take a look at the card that's showing right now, it says, when I move my ship into a segment on the shipping wheel, I will gain 1 gold in addition to whatever I would be doing. But also, when performing a shipping action, I can only ship the same type of goods. I cannot mix and match different resources. Now, it's unlikely that I'm going to be doing any shipping right now, so that doesn't bother me too much, because also, at the end of any turn where I have added a citizen into my hand, this event will refresh to a new event, and it's very likely that in this first turn, because I do want that holy card, it's probably a good idea that I pick that up anyway, which means that event will change. So having said that, I want to start working on getting resources, for sure, and I want to think about getting towards building a ward tower here so I can get that holy and shadow symbol. And I'd like to get a card. I've got 8 gold to start, so that's not a problem. I did also just realize that I forgot to get my 2 starting strength from my original wealth card, and I should show you this privilege token that we started with. We are going to start with this token that I can spend at any time to get 1 wild resource and 4 coins. So I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to play the merchant, which is going to get me 1 wild resource, move a Margrave, and move a knight. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a free wild resource, which I'm going to take one of these magic. And those are going to slot into my storage. I didn't mention this before. Again, I should have. I can only have stuff in my player board that fits in available slots in my sort of warehouse area. Every time I build one of these ward towers, I'm basically opening another slot that I can hold knights, resources and gems inside of. All right, so we're going to do that, which got my resource. Now I get to move my Margrave. I'm going to move my Margrave one space here, taking a stone. And then I'm going to send the knight that's there already over into Shilina to recruit this holy card, which says Margrave, knight, knight, but also the ability says gain 1 magic, and I can move my Margrave and then retrieve any other played cards. So that's a great way to refresh without wasting an action for a refresh. So we'll keep that in mind. And to do that, I need to spend 2 gold. So I'm going to put 2 gold back into here. Yes, and that's the end of my turn. That's the end of the turn. This card's not here. I did add to my tableau, so we're going to, first thing first, before I forget, refresh the event. So this card goes to the bottom. We flip over the next card, and it says Countryside Enlistment. You may spend gold to recruit at any location instead of at normal location power. Also, all recruits now cost 4 instead of whatever it shows below it. So it's gonna be more expensive to recruit, but I can recruit anywhere. These cards all slide over. We refresh that card. And then back to my turn. I wanna build, but I wanna buy this shadow before I build. And to do so, I'm going to need some wood. Yes. All right, so I don't really need to move a lot of knights around this turn. Buying things, buying cards is going to be expensive, but I definitely want to make sure that I do that. So I'm actually going to start by using my privilege tile, which is going to get me 4 more gold. And then 1 free resource, which I will take the wood because I'm going to need that to build soon. And I'm going to play this card here, which says, for my pendant ability, 2 coins, move my Margrave, move a knight. So I'm going to take 2 coins, and I'm going to move my Margrave into Shilina, which means I get to buy or recruit a card for 4 now because of the event. And I do want to, it's a shame because it cost me extra money, recruit this peddler, because I do want that shadow icon. But also I'm going to start planning ahead for next couple of rounds. So I am going to then move a knight. I'm actually going to place a knight from my player board onto the board. And I'm going to spend another 4 gold, trading in this 5 for a 1. And I'm going to take this 6. Because everything costs 4, I might as well go for the expensive one. And I'm basically just taking a second peddler, which is fine. It's another shadow icon, so I definitely want to make sure I get the shadow icons, which means at some point I want to definitely put a ward tower down in Insidious down here to get those double shadows, and I also want to focus on driving up that shadow track as possible. So that is my turn. We did buy a card, so this gets replaced. Our next event says Hire Mercenaries. I can use gold in addition to strength when I'm slaying a monster at a ratio of 2 to 1. But now all monsters have 1 additional strength, which is sad because I was considering potentially fighting next round. But that's okay, these all slide down. And we replace. All right, next turn. Well, fighting is a pain. I don't really care about this worker card because I'm not focused right now on that guild. So I think I might do my first building action right now. Yes. Or do I want to fight? No, I don't want to fight right now because that thing is high. But no. All right, I'm going to build. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and build. And I'm going to... I'll use one of my peddler cards just because I have 2 of them, so I can always use another one. And I'm going to spend wood, stone, magic, and a gem. Putting all of those back out on the board. And I will place a ward tower out in Shilina. And now I have an option of 3 wild resources, 1 extra influence, or 6 gold. And I'd kind of like to have the gold this early in the game. So I'm going to do that and take 6 gold. And then I get to move up on this track 3 times. Now I know that I've already bought 2 shadow and 1 holy. So So I'm going to start with Shadow going up 3 times on that track, 1, 2, and over the bridge is 3, which means I do need to spend the 2 gold that it shows here to do that. But it also means I get to choose one of these 3 tiles. And let's see what we got. I got an influence, I got 2 resources and a knight, and I got a card. 2 resources and a knight is going to be nice because it's going to get me closer to the building and it's going to get me more fighting capability. So I'm going to take that one. Then that is the end of my turn. We did not buy this one. So this one goes away from the game. We do not refresh this because I didn't recruit anything. These all slide down. Placing there, and I need to fill that slot with a tile like that. And it is my turn again. Now, I would like to buy that holy card, but I might sacrifice it anyway this turn. No, I do want to clear that away because I don't necessarily want to spend gold for fighting. Although, hold on, no. Slaying a monster would not be a bad idea right now. But buying stuff is also not a bad idea right now. I need to work my way down here to place another building. Where's the double holy? And down here. And then maybe one of these 2 is a good idea. But you know what? I'm going to sacrifice a round to do a combat. Yeah, and I'm going to focus on this orc shaman because I'm going to be coming down this direction to get to these shadow icons, and I can fight again from this location if I need to and get closer. So I'm going to do a combat this turn. So these 2 are my cards that I can combat. This one's going to get me a strength and a soldier, and then I can pay gold for more soldiers. This one gets me a magic and a strength, and then I gain 1 strength per ward tower, and then I can slay. I like that one because I need magic to fight the orc shaman. So we're going to play the paladin. I gain 1 magic and 1 strength. Like this. And then it says I gain 1 more strength per ward tower. I do have 1 ward tower out there, so that's going to go to level 4. That gets discarded, and now I can slay a monster. I'm attacking the orc shaman, but remember, everything has a +1 on it. So I need 5 strength and 1 magic, and I've got lots of knights here and on my board. And if I spend out knights, I can start aiming towards stuff there. Yes. All right, then I'm going to not actually use a knight on my board because I want to sort of spread out the knights. And if I carry them with me as I start moving down the board, that's probably a good idea to do. Then, I definitely need to spend at least 1 knight because I only have 4 and I need 5 strength. Yeah, let's just do that. I'm only going to spend the 1 knight. No. Yeah, just 1. Okay, so I'm going to spend 1 knight there to get 1 strength, then 2, 3, 4, 5 strength, and 1 magic lets me slay that monster. So I take the orc shaman, and then from that I'm going to get 1 influence somewhere, and then 3 gold and 1 more knight. And I'll set that off here. It doesn't really matter that we keep that monster. So actually, I'll just set it off to the side here. We only need to collect the layer cards later on. So that's that. Then I get 1 influence somewhere. And I think, yeah, I'm going to keep pushing on Shadow for right now. We will eventually, switch to Holy as well. But I'm going to push on Shadow for a little bit longer. And again, I get 3 coins. 1, 2, 3. And 1 knight. Like that. That's the end of my turn. We didn't get any cards, so that one gets removed from the game. These slide down again. This flips over. Then we do have someone here in a hero tomb that blocks or finishes this bottom row, so I will take 1 more knight for that. We've got lots of strength coming with us. Then I want to save her for later on so I can refresh cards more easily. So the question is, do I want strength or coins right now? It doesn't really matter too much. I definitely want to buy this card this turn. So then I'm going to move and activate, but how and why, and let's see what's going on. I'm going to, no, I don't need to attack it. I'm going to do this. card, which gets me 2 gold. I'm moving my Margrave down here into Silesia, and I will spend 1 coin to take 1 stone. And then I get to move or deploy a soldier, a knight, from either my board to Silesia or move on the board. I want cards, so I am going to send them up there. And that means that I can buy a card. And I like that rogue. I'll take that road for 2 coins. And that's my turn. We did get somebody, so this does flip. Fame without fortune. It says, when you slay a castle monster, gain double the influence. But when I slay a monster, I only gain influence and not the reward. That's not great, but the castle monster is only 3 strength, so we could potentially get over there and do that somewhat soon. I was aiming to get to Incadeus, but yeah, we need to take care of some other business first. So let's go ahead and do that. This slides over. We did get a card, so there's nothing removed. This flips again. And then, I think I might be a little bit crazy this turn. Yes, I'm going to actually use her power. But before I do that, I'm going to use this privilege token to take 2 resources. It doesn't really matter, and you'll see why in a minute. Because when I use her, I'm going to gain 1 magic. And then it says I may move my horse and I retrieve any other played cards. So I am going to move my Margrave into Neymar, which means I do trigger the shipping action. And I'm going to use all 4 of these resources. I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but we're going to go around that track. So I'm going to get 3 coins from there. Actually, I'm going to hold on to that because I'm going to ultimately get 6, so wait a minute. I get 1 influence. Again, I'm driving up shadow. I get another 3 coins, so there's my 6. And then I get 1 level 1 privilege. And we're going to do this a little bit interestingly. Hold on. I could use that to get this card. But I do want to focus on getting a gem soon so that we can... but we're okay for right this second. All right, then I am going to take this influence and instantly use it to move this up 1 more, spending 4 gold. Let's trade in a 5 for a 1. And that means I get to take 1 more. And I am going to take this one, and I'm instantly going to use that to take this card. Now this card, as played, allows me to get back all of these other cards. My hand's getting a little unwieldy, so I will just start taking cards and showing you what I'm using rather than letting you see all of my options all the time. That's the end of the turn. We did recruit, so that goes away. Our next event says, a dangerous mountainside trek. When you slay a mountain monster, they have +1 strength but provide an extra 3 coins. But it says, when I send a knight to the hero tombs, I have to pay 1 coin to do so. And mountains up here, which right now is not something I want. I need to figure out a way to get a gem. But before we do that, I need to refill these 2 slots. This gets refilled, and these all slide down. Now, I don't particularly care about this worker, so I need to start focusing on getting more resources, and most importantly, getting a gem, which right now is not looking great. All right, then what am I going to do this turn? I could attack, but I think I'd rather hold on to my strength for right now. I mean, if I could get this 10, that would be amazing, but there's no way for that easily to happen right now. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then I have to spend 6 coins, and it doesn't happen this round anyway. But it could if I buy this one, but then that changes. But that's okay. All right, let's do this. I gotta find a way to get some resources, and I gotta find a way to send people on their way. I'm going to play the captain, which gets me 1 strength, and then move a Margrave, move a knight. So I'm going to move my Margrave here to buy a card, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy myself 1 more round, basically. I'm spending 3 coins to recruit this holy monk, and then I need to move 1 knight. And I might as well send that knight here to take a stone. Now this card does get discarded, and this will get swapped because I did recruit. This says courier negotiation. You may take a shipping action at any location instead of activating the normal location power, but when I enter a segment of the shipping wheel that would reward money, I get strength instead. All right, these all slide down. Now my goal is to do some fighting real quick, as I don't care about this card or this card for right now. I might moving forward, but right now I don't. And I've got 1, 2, plus 1 is 3 strength, 4, 5, 6, 7 strength if I wanna. Because I do have a card, this Necromancer, that's going to bring back knights from the hero tombs. So I don't care so much if I send the knights to the tombs early. So I think I'm going to play this rogue for its power ability, which says get 2 strength and a coin, and then I can spend strength to get a coin, but I'm not going, or 2 coins. I'm not going to do that. I am going to slay a monster instead. So from where I am, I'm gaining 2 strength to get to 3 and 2 coins. Hold on a minute. This is not going to work. It will, but that's okay. We're going to take 2 turns to do this, but that's okay. All right, so I spent to get to 3. I get 2 coins, and then I can slay a monster. I'm going to slay this one because I don't have the ability to do this one yet. Hold on a minute. 10, right? I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need 1 more knight out, and that's not going to happen right now. Yeah, the problem is I should have taken the captain instead of the rogue, but we already used him before to get that first strength anyway. So that's okay. All right, so that's fine then. Instead of slaying, then I'm going to use this ability to gain 2 more coins. That's fine. And then this card goes away. And these all slide down. And this flips. Again, I don't really care about that soldier so much, so I am going to play the paladin then for its power, which says gain a magic and a strength. So now I'm at 4, and I get a magic. And now I may end up regretting this. Sorry, I get 1 more strength per ward tower, so I get 1 more for that. So I'm up to 5. And again, I may end up regretting some of this because these knights that I'm sending away are going to be things that could be helping me in other ways, but that's fine. I'm going to attack. So I'm going to use all 5 of my strength. And then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now where am I putting those? I'm going to put 1 here. 1, 2, 3. And then, do I want more resources? Do I want more strength? I think right now I need to focus on building, so I'm going to take 2 more resources. So I'm going to put that one there and that one there. So we do kill this warband, which gets me 8 coins, which is a shame because there's only 7 coins left there, but that's okay. And I get 2 influence for that, so we're going to move this up 2 more on that track. I then do take this location or lair card into my hand as points at the end of the game. That's the end of that. Then all of these guys in the hero tombs lie down, so we've got this whole row here, which gets me 1 more influence. I will pay that 6 coins now to take this token here because I crossed 1 or 2, and I'm going to get myself a free gem. And then these two lay down to get me 2 more resources. So I'm going to take a wood. And since I'll be moving towards the bottom of the board, I'm going to take one of these stones. Good. We didn't recruit anybody, so he goes away. These all slide down. I do want that one next turn. And then this gets replaced as well. Ooh, 9 and a card. I like it. No, that's backwards. Card and 6 is a little bit less interesting, but that's fine. We have way too much money anyway. All right, then I need to get my way down here. The problem is I want to buy this card now. And there are no knights here. I have no knights on my board either. That's okay. Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to play the Necromancer cards for its power, which says gain 2 from the hero tombs, I can deploy 1, and then all players can pay 1 coin for 1 magic. I'm going to do both of those things. So I'm going to take this guy and this guy out of there, and I'm going to deploy right there into Shalina, because that lets me then spend 2 coins to take this card. And then I get to spend 1 coin to buy 1 more magic, which is great. Perfect. All right, that's my turn. These all slide down. I did buy a card, so I do change the event, which I'm going to do in just a second, which now says, Fleet of Dirigibles. At the start of your turn, you may pay 2 gold to move to any location, but you do not activate the power. Then at the end of my turn, I have to discard 2 cards from the line or pay 2 coins to discard 1 as normal. Okay, I like that a lot because I got everything I need for a building. So I'm going to do that. I'm flying. I'm going to pay 2 coins, perfect timing, and I'll ride that dirigible, flying myself all the way down here to Incadeus. Now that does mean at the end of my turn I have to either discard 2 cards from here or pay 2 coins to just discard 1. Because now that I'm here I can discard anything I'd like to build a building here. And to do that I need to get rid of something. And again I have a double peddler, so I'm going to trash a peddler to build a building. And that means I need to spend 1 wood, 1 magic, 1 stone, and 1 gem. And then I get to place out one of my ward houses. I'm going to place it here on the level 1 privilege tile, so I can take this 3 strength for 1 gem token, because I'm going to hope that I can get some strength and get a gem rather than trying to come all the way back up here to get one. And then I get 3 influence for placing that down. And I'm going to boost my holy now. Instead of trying to get this up here, no, you know what? Forget it. I got lots of shadow cards in here. And I just built a double shadow there. So I'm going to boost this again. 1, 2, 3. Crossing there, I spend 8 coins. 1, 2, 3, and 5 means I'm down to a single coin, but that's okay for right now. And I get to take one of these level 2 tokens. 3 influence would not be a great idea right now, but I could take it and use it later. Yeah, you know what? I'm super low on gold. I'm taking the 12 gold and using it right away. 5, 10, 11, 12. Because that's also the gold I can pay to cross that line if necessary. Now, that's the end of my turn. I am going to spend the 2 gold to avoid getting rid of 2 cards, because I don't want to lose that holy if possible. That goes away. These slide down like that. I mean, it really doesn't matter too much because I haven't boosted holy at all, but I should a little bit because I do have that holy symbol and I am out of places to build unless I want one more shadow here or the double holy here. But that's the round. I do replace these tokens that I took like that. There's a free gem that would have been nice to have, but that's okay. Then I need to find a way to get strength to get a gem, and I also need wood. But I'd also like to buy a card this turn if I can, which is gonna be tricky. But Yeah, I got a little bit of money and I can get more later. All right, I'm gonna play this monk for its banner up here, which is move my Margrave and then 2 knights. So move the Margrave here, spending 1 coin to buy wood. And then I'm moving a knight from my board to that location. And yeah, I'll do the same thing again. Trading in a 5 for 4 coins. And I will buy, doesn't really matter right now. I'll take another wood because I don't think I'm coming back down here again. And then for my second knight, I move it up here and I will spend 2 coins to buy that cleric card. Like that. Good. Which means my event changes again. Says traveling gem merchant. I can spend 3 resources to get a gem at any location instead of activating the normal location. And when I get a gem, I have to pay 2 coins to the supply. That's not good because that means this too. These slide down. This flips over like that. Then I'd like to get my military strength up. I'd like to get more cards. I would like to get more coins. There's just too little available to me at the moment. Then, all right, I'm gonna do a sort of mini refresh with my cleric card, gain a magic, move my Margrave. I might as well go there, spend 2 gold and get a priestess. I really need to start boosting my holy up. Like that. And then it says retrieve any other played cards. So all of my cards except for that one come back to me again. This gets refreshed. Which says help from the locals. When you slay a hill monster, which is great based on where I am, gain a card from the line in addition to the reward listed. But all monsters require two resources to slay in addition to other requirements. Okay, we might take advantage of that anyway. These slide down like this. Then I think I might do that because this is only a 3 strength and I've got 2 extra resources anyway. And I got lots of knights waiting in the wings. All right, then we're gonna play our rogue for our ability, getting 2 strength and 2 coins. And then I'm fighting this ward pack. And I want to use as little strength as possible because I want to get strength for this gem. So I'm going to spend 1 strength. And I'm going to spend 2 knights. And I'll put them here and here. And I got to spend 2 resources. A magic and a wood looks good to me. Then I slay this ward pack, which gets me 1 resource. And I'm going to take a stone, and you'll see why in a minute. And 1 experience point, or influence point. I'm going to start working on holy. We'll focus. We'll get them done, I hope. Then, in addition, I get a card. I'm going to take that. It says gain a card. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to take that holy card like that. And then, at the end of the round, he lays down, I get 1 more influence there. He lays down, I get 2 more resources, which gets me my stone and my wood and my magic. So now I have enough resources for 2 buildings. I just need some gems. Or we can do a whole lot of goodness down here on our next turn, which might be what happens. Okay, then that's that. I did do this because I did get that card. Which means our new action says overseas deployment. When performing a shipment action, I can ship knights as if they were a resource. And then it says when I place a knight into hero tombs, I gain 1 coin, but I don't gain rewards for filling the row or column. I don't like that. So I do want to get a card to get rid of that before we do any more battling. The next 2 cards I don't care about. So we've got some time to do other stuff. And I'd like to get my strength up. All right, so we're going to play the captain for its banner. Strength 1, move Margrave, move knight. So strength goes up to 2. Margrave goes to Neymar. because I'm shipping. Instead of building more stuff, I'm shipping. So I'm going to spend, oof, this is tricky. I can get more resources later. In fact, I can get more resources right now. All right, then I'm spending 4 resources. I'm going to spend 4 resources to move this 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So I get 6 coins. I get 1 influence, means I'm pushing that holy, spending 2 coins to take this token right here, which is 2 strength and 2 coins. And I'm going to spend it right away to get 2 strength and those 2 coins back again. And then I get a level 2 token as well. And I think I'm going to take a gem and use it right away to get a gem. Yeah, that looks good to me. Okay, that's done. We didn't get a card. That doesn't change. This gets discarded. These get refilled. Like that and like that. Ah, sorry, one thing I did just forget. My mistake. I also get to move 1 soldier, so I'm going to send that knight there to spend 1 coin and take my resource back. I need the magic to build. These slide down like this. All right, then I am going to build. So what am I getting rid of? I got that double peddler again. Peddler's going away. And I'm going to spend those 4 things, means a gem, a stone, a wood, and a magic to build again here in Neymar. And yes, I'd like the coins. So I'm going to take 6 coins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But it's not going to matter for too long because I get 3 influence. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 right there to finish my shadow. So I'm going to spend the 6 I got plus another 6, which is 12. And I get one of these doubles. And, yeah, why not? I'm going to spend this, take this token, 3 influence, use it right away to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to spend 4 and spend this 5 and take a 1. And I will take this 6 coins right away like that. And that's my turn. Cool. All right, so this card goes away. These all slide down like this. This flips over like that. I do need to find a way to get that card. And then I don't really care after that point. Then I want to start killing things and building my last tower. All right, then, I need to get here to buy something. Or send a knight there some way. I also need some resources. Let's do this. I'm going to play the merchant for its banner, which is 1 resource. And I will take stone. And then I move here and spend 1 gold to get another resource. I will take wood because I do eventually want to go down here to Rakestrom and build a building, and I'll get a magic for doing that anyway. And then I'm going to move this knight up here to Shilina, spending 2 coins. Oops, to take that pilot. Yes. That's that. I did take 1, so this changes. It says strong arm charisma. When you cross a bridge over a river on the influence track, pay -2 of the listed cost. Ah, that's a shame. But when you cross a bridge over a river on the influence track, I also have to pay 1 strength. All right. That's fine. These slide down. And this is my last card. So we've got 5 rounds or less left in the game. I don't think I'm going to get any more of these because they're all worth 1 point to me, and I'd rather do other things. So let's work on maximizing points and not pay attention to cards. So basically I have 5 rounds left. Then, all right, I want to, I might as well do this. I'm going to use the pilot for his power ability. It says hire a card or gain 1 coin. Or sorry, gain 1 resource. I'm going to gain a resource. I'll take stone because it's far away. And then it says move my Margrave to any location. So I'm going to move straight to Rakestrom, which gets me 1 magic. And then I'm going to use my token here to spend 3 strength and take 1 gem. And then that card goes away. These all slide down again. Then I discard a card for anything, or any card, I mean. And I think I'm going to discard another peddler. Use a stone of wood and a magic, plus my gem to place out my final tower here. Hold on, these should have been refreshed and I forgot to. Okay, I like this. I'm going to place it out on this tile, which gets me this one. I'll use it immediately to get 3 strength, up to 4. And then I get 3 influence. So 1, hold on a minute. Maybe I don't do that. It's not going to matter anyway, because watch this. I'm going to take the 4 coins instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. This goes up 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to spend those, 6 coins there. And I will take that 3 now. Whoops. 3 now, and I do still get that 4 strength. That works nicely. Okay. Then, that's the end of the round. This gets trashed. Those slide down. I place 1 more of these back out there. And then, I'd love to fight this guy. Because if I can fight this guy, I'm going to get a point for that gem. I get an influence that's not enough yet. But it's still worth it if I can manage. I got 3 turns. I'd like to fight him in 1 more. I don't get enough influence. I'm going to be 1 influence short. If I can... Yeah, okay. I think we're good. Then, let's do this. Gain 2 from the hero tombs. Take those same 2 again. I think. No. That one. And then it says you may deploy 1. I'm going to deploy the one that's already on the board to there, spending that stone to move the ship there to get 3 coins. I just realized I'm making a mistake. The event said I pay 2 less when I crossed that bridge, but I did have to pay 1 strength. So I'm only at 3, but I have 2 coins left. Everything else is fine, but now I get 3 coins for that. So yeah, 3 coins. 1, 2, 3. This goes away. We slide down twice. 3, 4, 5, 6 if I was there. I need 9. I don't know that I'm going to get to 9. I only have 2 turns left. Okay, we're fine. Then, I'm going to play a cleric for the ability. Gets me 1 magic. I can move my Margrave, which I moved there, and spend that magic to go here to get 1 more influence there. Yeah, I think I'm still going to be 1 short, but that's okay. Then we are going to retrieve any other played cards. So I get all my cards back again. This goes away. It slides down. Now I gotta find the best way to fight. I'd love to fight this one, but I may just take this one. Let's see what we got. Ooh, this is perfect. All right, then we're gonna play for our final round of the game, the Paladin card. Gain 1 magic and 1 strength. And then it says gain 1 strength per ward tower. And I have all 4 of them on the board. So I get another 4, that's 8 strength. And I do now have the magic to fight that. The last thing it says is you may slay a monster. So I'm going to slay the gnoll. And to do so, I'm going to spend my magic. And I'm going to use 3 knights, 1, 2, 3, plus 6, puts me to 2, that's 9 strength. I will place this one here, this one here, and this one here like that. That gets me 4 coins, so I'll swap out a 1 for a 5. Gets me 1 gem, and gets me 1 influence like that. Good. I also get to take this layer, because I did just defeat the second monster in that layer. And now to finish the round, this goes away, which means this is the final round of the game. But these guys are going to lay down. He lays down and he lays down to get me 1 more influence, crossing that bridge, which means I pay 2 coins less, so 5, 6, but I also have to pay 1 strength, which is fine. And I get to take any level 2 tile, which means I might as well take the 12 coins. 10, 11, 12. He lays down and I get an additional 3 coins. There are only 2, but that's fine. And with that, we finished the game, but now we go into final scoring. Then for final scoring, the game does come with this score pad, which I will be using. The one thing you see here that doesn't make sense in this game is that this piece right here is commenting on the banners that are removed in the solo game, so that gets crossed off, but we'll use that to score points for our layer cards when we get there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at symbols. So for my symbols, again, none of the guild icons on the tokens here, the privilege tokens there, are in this game, so that doesn't matter. Then we're looking at cards. Looking at my deck, let's go through all my cards. Nothing, holy, holy, nothing, shadow, 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 nothing, shadow, shadow, holy, 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 shadow. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holies. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shadow cards. And nothing for either the workers or the soldiers. And then we're going to take a look at where our ward towers are. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 shadows. 4 shadows. I've got 1, 2, 3 holy. And I've got 1 of the soldiers and nothing at all for workers. Now looking at the final state over here, it tells me that my workers are worth 1 point each, which is nothing because I don't have any anyway. My soldiers are worth 1 point each, and I have 1 of them, so that gives me 1 point. My shadow is worth 6 points each. 6 plus 4 is 10 times 6 is 60 points for shadow. My holy, which I pushed real fast endgame, is worth 5 points each. 5 and 3 is 8 times 5 is 40. Now again, this section with the banners doesn't matter in solo, but we did get 2 layer cards, each of which is worth 2 points, so that's going to be 4 points for those. I do have 1 gem that's worth 2 points. I don't have any resources left, and all 5 gold is worth 1 point. So we've got 5, 10, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is another 5, 15, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 20. So I'm going to get 4 points from my gold, which is 60 and 40 is 100, plus 4 is 104, and 2 is 106, and 4 is 110 points for my final score of the game. Now the way the solo mode works is in the solo rules there is a score sort of threshold that you can check to see how well you did. And this is really awesome because I've never scored anywhere near this high before. With a 110, I put myself in the highest scoring bracket, and it says my legendary feats have earned me the title Heir Apparent. So that's it for the game. While we are here, let's go ahead and take a look at the components. The artwork here is artwork from the Micho, just like every game in the Valeria series. And again, I do really love the artwork. Here, I'll show you a few of the cards close up. You've seen them as I've been playing. But the character designs here, Pilot, Rogue, Peddler, these are all really, really great pieces of art from the Micho. The monsters as well. I really love his work on the creatures in the Valeria series. Here's a Knoll Lord, the Warg Pack, the Warband. They're all just really, really, really great pieces of art. Big fan of the Micho, and it shows here. Iconography on everything is the same sort of iconography that you know from Valeria games. So if you played any of the games, you should recognize all of the guild symbols. You should understand things like magic and gold and those other kinds of symbols that do pop up all the time. They're very easy to understand. Everything here is very clear. Everything makes perfect sense to me. Wooden components, again, I am a huge fan of wooden components. And everything here, again, the resources should look familiar to you, but all of these pieces are really, really, really nice shaped pieces. Very clear what everything's representing. Chunky wooden bits. I'm a fan. I'll always be a fan. I like them here. All of the tokens, all the tiles, everything is very nice quality. The cards as well, very, very nice linen finish, I believe. Yes, definitely linen finish. Nice, thick, sturdy cards. Shuffle very easily. No warping, no curling that I can see here. These key pieces here were a little bit of a pain to put together, but they do stay together nicely, and they're kind of, I don't want to say useless, because all they're doing is holding gold, and I can simply just leave that on the table. But they do look cool, and they do hold the gold nicely, so I guess yay for having them in there. I should show you again, these are the coins that you do get with the actual game itself, and they're a nice design. I have been using in this playthrough the metal coins that are an additional purchase for the game. And I'm of two minds of these metal coins. The weight of these coins, the heft of these coins, the coins themselves are wonderful. The design of the coins, I also really like the sort of art design or graphic design on the coins. My problem with the coins, and it's not really a problem, it might be a good thing for you, is that they're incredibly shiny coins. They look way too sort of nice and new and fancy. It's almost worth it if I could, use some kind of ink wash on them to weather them a bit, and I think I'd like them a little bit more with a more dull, weathered look to them. But otherwise, they feel great, they sound great, they work very well. If you're a fan of metal coins, these are very nicely made metal coins. I just might want to ding them up or scuff them up or ink them up a little bit just to make them look a bit more weathered. Finally, the last thing I do like to take a look at before I leave the table is the insert for the game. This insert is a little bit strange to me, but let me go through what there is. You'll see on the bottom here that there's a printing that shows you exactly how to put everything together. You are supposed to save the punch boards, which I've done, and place them under here. Now what happens is this. All of the player boards slot here in the middle, and it's sort of surrounded by these two foam walls. And then they've got these sort of mini, smaller stone walls that fit like this. And if I move things around a little bit, those do fit a bit tighter. I've just loosened things up while I was taking things out. But each of these wells is basically card sized. So I can stick like the citizen cards in here like that. Granted, I put them in a bag. I'm just showing you how they fit. And then the monster cards can fit in here. And then if I set this up right, all of the resource tokens go into this section right here. And then each of these sort of player packs, I put all of the player stuff in one bag, and those will fit on top of those as well as on top of the keeps, which all fit right in over here. That's why everything's sliding, because that's not really in firmly, but you get the idea. That fits there, those fit there, the cards all fit in. On top of the boards, I put in the other, these tiles in bags. The wealth tiles I have sort of just floating in here. And then on top goes the board and the sort of track board and the rules. Everything does fit in nicely. The only thing that bothers me a little bit is that these just flop around. And so, yeah, it works, but it takes a little bit of work to make everything fit and go back the way that it should go. It's definitely better than an empty box. I appreciate the fact that they went the extra mile to put those in there, because it does keep the components sort of safe underneath the rulebook and the boards as they get put away. It's just a bit more fiddly than I like to see in an insert, but it also uses less materials, so I guess I sort of applaud that as well. So that's basically it for that. Meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. This is another one of the Valeria games now, and I've played a bunch of them, and so far there hasn't been a single one of these games that didn't work for me at all. Some of them have been okay, and some of them have been really, really good, but for the most part I really enjoy all of the games that I've played in the Valeria Kingdom series, and this one is not an exception to that explanation or to that statement. I do really enjoy this game, but this is going to be sort of a back and forth one for me, mostly because of the solo mode rather than the game itself. But let's talk more about the game itself first, and then I'll focus more on the solo mode and what works and what doesn't work for me. Now, this game, as I mentioned in the introduction, really is a bit of a kitchen sink, all kinds of stuff thrown in there. But for the most part, for me, it really does all come together into a sort of single package that really does feel like I'm playing a game where all of these things connect in interesting ways and really do make sense for the game. This doesn't feel like it's sort of overblown or full of bloat or just what could we put in this game kind of feeling, and it does make this game feel very unique. So let's sort of walk through all of the stuff that's in this game. Because at its heart, this game is a card-driven game where you're playing cards to do things. And these cards have multiple different ways that they can be used. You've got the banner actions in the top left that are basically you moving around the board, activating locations, a la a worker placement game, except that I'm not placing. I actually have to physically move from location to location, which already makes things a little bit more interesting than a simple worker placement, at least as far as the way that this game works, because there are certain things you need to do. You need to get resources to build things. You need to get gems to build things. You need to be able to fight monsters. You need to build the strength to fight monsters. You need to be recruiting these civilian cards into your deck. And in order to do those things, you have to be in the right places to get those things done. And those places may not always be easily reachable from where you are. So you really have to think about the path that you're working your way through this game board in order to trigger the things that you need to trigger in the right places, and then find other ways to supplement those actions through the tiles that you get, through the cards that you're drafting, and so on. So the fact that there's this movement puzzle on top of the place and activate puzzle is a really interesting one to me. And the fact that there's knights on the board that you move to a location, but then you can send somebody even further, means you don't have to go that far. You can go sort of halfway to where you need to get to, and then send somebody off to do your bidding for you, which really does add another interesting level or an interesting layer to that movement puzzle. So that's the first piece of the card usage. The second thing you can do is use the sort of power of the character whose card you're playing. And these get even more sort of wide variety of things that can be done, boosting up strength, boosting up resources, giving you special abilities to jump across the board or send a knight way across the board or bring back people from the dead that you then place back out on the board, and so on. And these are the powers that you're going to be using sort of in between your movement turns to sort of beef yourself up and to prepare for and plan for other stuff that's coming in the future. Then the third thing that you can do is you can build these ward towers, which basically is one of the main scoring goals of the game, because it's going to get you some of those guild icons that are going to score at the end of the game, but it's also going to give you a bunch of stuff, meaning driving up your influence on certain tracks, which also multiply the scoring at the end of the game, and giving you some kind of activation ability for building there. And then in future turns, some of the cards are going to give you more stuff based on how many of these towers you've got built. So that one's not really using the card so much as it is forcing you to get rid of a card that you then can't use until you refresh your cards, and that fourth action that you can do with the card is that refresh. Now, this is another situation where I need to get rid of a card in order to simply get all of my stuff back. Now, it's nice that when you get all of your stuff back, you also have the ability to buy one of those citizens or recruit one of those citizens from that track at the top of the board, because otherwise it would be sort of just a wasted turn. But you're also getting rid of something else from that market when you pick up something from the market. And remember, in the solo game, that market is the only timer that's sort of dictating how that game is playing out. So it is rushing game, and it is effectively wasting a turn. So if you can find a way to get cards back without using that refresh, which is what I did in this game, having a card that brought back all my other cards and gave me stuff at the same time, it really does help you. The less you waste on refreshing cards, the better off you are. So the way you can find more cards to add to your hand gives you more ability to use cards before you have to refresh. And if you can find a card that you can use to refresh without using that refresh action, even better. But all of this stuff happens only within the cards. The movement, the triggering of abilities, the building of buildings, and then the refreshing to get your cards back to do it all over again. And it's really, really cool that there's all of this level of action selection built into the cards. Because then the next step is the sort of card drafting, deck building aspect of the game. Because the cards that you have, you only start with 4. Everything else that you want to get, you got to add to your hand from that market that's out there that you got to spend gold on. So that means you got to get gold to buy those cards, right? But then when you're focused on those cards, you're looking for cards that have good powers or good abilities at the bottom of the card. You're looking for cards that might give you good movement but also get you gold, or also get you a resource, or also get you a strength as you're moving across the map. But more importantly, and maybe even most importantly, depending on where you are in the game and what else you're focused on, those cards all have guild icons, and those guild icons are going to be the scoring at the end of the game. So you really have to focus not only on cards that are going to be useful for you, but also on the cards that are going to score the most points for you based on which guilds you've got influence in and where you're pushing the influence. Do you push a little influence on everything and then hopefully get a bunch of different cards? Do you push all your influence on one thing and then try your best to get the cards that you need to score, which is what I did in this last play? There's this nice sort of multi-layered puzzle that you have to think about. Which cards am I getting and for what purpose? Is this a throwaway card to use for other things? Is this a card that has great abilities? Is this a card that's going to move me all over the map? Is this a card that's going to move me around the map and get me stuff that I need while I'm doing that? Or is this a card that I need mostly for the scoring and then I'll find a way to use later? And I really, really like this combination of taking the cards and using the cards. But then there's even more, right? Then we've got this idea of fighting monsters. And yes, that comes from the card. And yes, that comes from another resource. But now we've got another resource that we have to deal with. Because we've got a first set of resources of wood, stone, and magic, plus the gems that we need, and those 4 things together makes a building. But then I need to make sure I'm in the right place to build a building. But also those 3 resources can be used to get other stuff depending on what your cards give you. And also those 3 resources at the port let you move that ship around that wheel. And maybe I decide I don't need to focus so much on building those buildings because I'm only getting 2 guild icons per building that I build. Instead, if I focus on spending a ton of resources at that port, making that ship go all the way around so many times, driving up all of my guild tracks, because there are lots of influence on that track if I keep going around, driving up those tracks and getting more of those privilege tiles for doing so, and also for going around the circle of the shipping, that's going to give me another way to boost the multipliers for all of my scoring and get me privilege tiles that do other things along the way. So maybe I focus on the shipping rather than the building. That's a whole different aspect of the game that I hadn't even really thought about forcing or going after until right this second. So there is really a lot of ability going on here. But I just lost my train of thought because I was talking about combat. And now combat's another interesting one, because combat requires strength. And strength is something you can get from cards. Strength is something you can get from some of those privilege tiles. But more importantly, those knights that you've been sending around all over the board, if you can manage to get them where you need them to be, and most likely in the place where you are, when you go to combat, you can sacrifice some of those knights to get extra strength to fight off bigger monsters. And more importantly, when those knights die a hero's death, you get stuff if you bury them in the tombs in the right way and sort of praise them for their glory as they die. And that's another really interesting thing, because now I can focus on combat. I get lots of resources from combat. I get influence from combat every time I kill something. And if they're big monsters, I get more influence. I get coins from combat. And now if I sacrifice these knights, they go into the hero's tomb and I can get all kinds of stuff from that. Now in this game, this is the first time I focused on a shadow strategy. And the fact to have that necromancer to pull the knights back up out of the grave and rebury them later, triggering the same stuff over again, was really, really, really powerful. And that was not something that I'd ever played with before. So that was really neat to see that come out in this playthrough. But there's so much option and so much going on. I should mention also that when you remove those knights from the board, that means they're not on the board to move around and trigger actions for you. So then you might find yourself playing cards for their banner action and not being able to send knights to where you need them to go. The point of this is this. There's a whole lot of stuff going on here. There's lots of different usage of the cards. There's the whole idea of drafting cards and building the deck that helps you better yourself and do better through gameplay. There's this whole focus on combat, there's a whole focus on shipping, there's a whole focus on managing resources to build the ward towers that you need to build. All of this going on together, I just really love the way that it all fits, and this game feels really unique to me. I don't think that I've ever played a game that really works in this same kind of way. Now, if I sound so positive on the game, why am I sort of iffy on the game as a whole? Mostly it's because of the solo mode. There's a lot of good here, but there's a lot of kind of here as well. And the good here is that it does give you a nice timer, and the events that it throws into the game are really interesting because each of these events is going to give you some kind of positive thing. At the same time, it's going to punish you in some other way. Now, if you've planned well and you can deal with the punishment, the boon that you get might be a really, really good thing to have. And it's really interesting to see these events come out, to see what it throws at you and how it forces you to think in different ways and try out different strategies and different tactics as you're playing. And it also forces you to think better about timing when to get the civilians into your deck, because every time you add a civilian, the event swaps to a new one. And then you may want to swap out an event that's hurting you quickly and get a civilian that you might not care about, or spend more money on a civilian than you want to spend just to get it and get that event cycled. And that is interesting to me. That is fun to me. The thing that bothers me about this is, in the multiplayer game, and I've never played the multiplayer game, so this is only coming from the rules, but in the multiplayer game, there are also guild icons on some of the privilege tiles, which means there's another way that you can collect scores or icons that score based on your multipliers at the end of the game. There are also these different colored banners on some of those privilege tiles, and the banners are going to sort of score you like a set collection. If you get a certain number of a certain color of banner, then you're going to score multiplied or sort of exponential points based on how many of those banners you've got. So those are two additional sort of scoring things that can come out of those privilege tiles. But in the solo game, those are all sort of thrown out the window. And what that means for me is the main scoring then focuses only on the guild icons on cards and the guild icons on those buildings. And yes, if I kill enough enemies in one location, I get the layer card that gets me 2 points, but 2 points isn't a whole lot of points. Those multipliers are really where the points are coming from, which means that my focus needs to be on specific symbols. My focus needs to be on buying cards that have those symbols above all else. And my focus also needs to be building as many buildings on places that have those symbols on them, which means I lose some of the breadth in this game. I lose some of the ability to sort of try out different things because I must focus on those cards and I must focus on those buildings. And it kind of makes the solo mode a little bit more samey and repetitive than I feel like the multiplayer probably is. But I still do really enjoy it. The other small negative about the solo is the way that the monsters work. Because in the multiplayer game, every layer has several regular monsters and a boss. But in the solo game, you're shuffling the boss and the regular monsters and drawing 2 cards. Which means you could get 2 really weak monsters that are easy to fight, but don't give you a whole lot of stuff when you beat them. Or you could get the hardest monster and the boss, which are really, 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 really hard to beat. Means maybe you don't do it, but you get a lot of stuff for it when you do. Now, I don't know how well that balance plays out. Is it worth me killing lots of stuff, getting lots of lair cards, which does get me a few more points, makes it easier to do, but gets me less stuff in-game? Or fight these giant monsters, getting lots of stuff, but then not being able to fight off so many of them, and therefore getting less lair cards bended into the game? I don't know how that balance works, but it does feel to me that there's a bit of randomness that may affect the game in some negative ways based on drawing 2 random cards from that pile. Now that may not be true. I haven't played this game enough and broken this game enough in different ways to see if that's true, but that's how it feels to me. So ultimately this game is very interesting. It's very unique. It's very different than many things that I've played before. I do love the core mechanisms. I do enjoy the way that this game churns, but ultimately it starts to feel a little bit samey for me in the solo mode. And after a while playing this game, it's less and less and less exciting to me. And that's a shame because there's something really strong here, and I just wish there was one more little something, one more little path to scoring, one more little twist on the solo that would give me a little bit more open, I don't want to say point salad, but a little bit more open variety of how I can score and where the points are coming from, just to make it a little bit more fresh, maybe giving me variable player powers that are more than just the slightly different starting conditions you get from those wealth tiles. Now, I should say that before I go, those wealth tiles are pretty cool because I do start quite a bit differently every single time with different resources, and that means the path that I take to get to the same conclusion is often different based on what I got, but ultimately it still comes up to feel a little bit samey, and it is a little bit underwhelming, mostly because I've set my expectations so high on this one, and it doesn't quite live up to those. That said, I do really enjoy it. If this does look like something you'd be interested in, I definitely recommend this as a try, at least. And it might be something that really, really does catch your attention. And if you're gonna play it multiplayer, even more so, there's definitely a lot of interesting mechanisms here to play around with and see if it works for you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was helpful. As always, if you did enjoy this video, I ask you to please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, as it really does help out the channel. Thanks a lot.